The boss's son. I swallowed. Babysitter was not the best way to describe me, and certainly were not the first words that came to my head. A young man stepped out of the car's interior, wearing a pair of jeans and a blue t-shirt with a rock band I didn't recognize on it. He looked like he had just gotten off a plane. My palms began to sweat when his dark brown eyes connected with mine. His mouth dropped slightly. Shit. He looked dazed for a moment as he stared back at me. He was making me feel uncomfortable. Mr. Gomez patted my shoulder. Come on, I'll introduce you. Javier, come here. I want you to meet someone, Mr. Gomez said to the young man. The young man came over at once. He was tall, slim, with the body of a basketball player. Javier, I want you to meet Liam Mason. He's my most prized soldier, my new right-hand man, Mr. Gomez introduced. Javier looked impressed. His smile was anything but shy. I hated to sound arrogant, but I felt he was definitely checking me out. A pleasure, sir, Javier said. He spoke English well. That's what money bought you, a great education in another country. I wasn't as surprised. Being the son of the most notorious crime lord usually had its perks. Liam will be taking you under his wing. I'm appointing him your new bodyguard. I caught the smile of Javier's face. I wanted to oppose the decision. Sir, are you sure about that? I asked. He glanced back at me. He was as delighted as Javier. Sure, take him under your wing. Teach him what you know. Of course, there's no one I trust more with my son's life than you. I'll leave you with him. Javier, get to know him, son. He's the best. He moved to leave, barking orders to the two suits by the car. I glanced over at Javier and caught his eye examining me. I almost blushed. He smiled up at me and met my stare. I shook my head and instead called over to his father. What about the training and patrols? I said before he was too far away. Take him along with you for training. If I need you for the heavy duties, he can stay back. Until then, get to know each other. My son can impress you with the things he knows. Guns, tactics. Don't let his youth deceive you. He takes after his old man. Javier rolled his eyes. Mr. Gomez left us alone. The guys moved over. They were smiling and laughing. Want us to wait for you, boss? Sanchez asked. They were all snickering and cracking jokes while looking at Javier as one does with an ugly stain. Get settled in. We have a long day tomorrow. I want you and Garcia to find the first group of men in the morning. Back to the site of the explosion. Get them started picking through the rubble and looking for Jones's body. What about? Gomez said, going quiet when he caught Javier alongside me, looking at us. I pulled Gonzalez aside. Javier didn't follow. I've already talked to him. He has no problem with it. Maybe I'll bring the kid along, get him out. Gonzalez nodded. I patted him on the side of the shoulder and sent him off. Now go get some rest. The retrieval of the truck had taken most of the day, at least most of the morning and part of the afternoon. My team all nodded. See you inside, Liam, Gonzalez said, slapping me on the shoulder. Javier waved at them. They smiled back at him, but he had no idea their laughter was laughter intended to poke fun at our situation. He seemed naive about the whole thing. I felt bad for eyeing him like a delicious dish. They're cool, Javier uttered. Oh, if only he knew. There was an awkwardness between us, a little something I could feel. I guess it was my attraction. I had always liked them young, dark and slim as this young man was. By the way, I'm not a kid. Shit, I'm almost 24, he said. Excuse me? I said, not sure what he meant. I heard you. You call me a kid. I'm not. Yeah, sure, I said under my breath before smiling. I gave him a look, took a breath and began to walk. He followed like a lost little puppy. "What? You scared of the boss's son?" he mocked. I could tell he was going to be my ruin. I gave him a crooked smile. "I'm only doing this." He cut me off. "Because you have no choice?" Little smartass. I stopped and glared over at him. "Listen, let's get one thing straight. I'm in charge here." "You're forgetting who my father is," he boldly said with a smirk. I snarled, "And you're forgetting he put me in charge of your life." I moved away. He followed. "Listen, I have different plans from him than my father. We don't agree on a lot of things. I just need training." I nearly laughed. Was he hiring me now? "What do you want from me, kid?" I asked, stopping briefly. He froze, but he wasn't frightened. I think he was intrigued. I couldn't shake the idea that he found me interesting and a pleasure to be around. His eyes just wanted to connect, and it was a connection that I strongly refused to make. After a moment, he said, "I just want respect. His respect." Those words surprised me. I started walking again, but slowly, so he was walking alongside me. I swung my gun strap over my shoulder as I walked back and grabbed a bag by the Humvee. Javier grabbed the other one beside it. I meant to object as he lifted it. "I can help," he offered. The bag he grabbed carried some of my dirty laundry. I wanted to grab it from him, but he insisted on taking it. The trip to retrieve the truck had taken more than a few days traveling through rough terrains, days of sleep out in the desert in tents and sometimes small towns until we got the intel we had been looking for. "It's cool," he insisted. I tucked in my lip as he walked alongside me. "Come on, let me show you what I can do. I can be a part of this. I know you think I can't do this. Just let me show you." Javier continued until we reached the quarters just off the side of the main house. The men each had their own sections. During this time, the men would be showering at their private lockers. This place had been built especially for my men and me. Each section was built separately and was only connected by a single slab to each side. To me, it was a place with 4 walls. A barracks would have been enough for me. The place had a kitchen, a small living room, and a bathroom with a shower. It had a second-floor bedroom. I usually disarmed at the lockers, but since Javier was here, I headed to my place instead. It would give me time to drop off the laundry. "Just drop the bag there," I told him. He put it on the counter by the kitchen island and began to open it. I spun my head back and immediately stopped him as he was holding a pair of my underwear. "Hey," I said, tucking it back in the bag. "I said put it down, not go through my things." "I was only helping," he tried to say, but I caught the smile on his face as I grabbed at the bag and pulled it away from his grabbing hands. "You know, Consuela can wash your clothes. I can send for her if you like." "No thanks," I said. "I do my own laundry." "Yeah, Dad said you were a little arrogant and private." I glared over at him. "In a good way," he redirected. I gave him a crooked smile and moved the bag over to a closet that held a dryer and washing machine. "So, what else did he say?" I narrowed my eyes over at him, lowered the gun and took off the armor vest and set it near the side of the couch on the floor. I caught sight of his mouth parting, but nothing came out. The shirt hugged my body. I was about to take off the dark green shirt, but instead moved away, walking into the bathroom to take care of business. I finished, flushed, and washed my hands. I caught him standing over by the side of the bathroom door. I wasn't sure how long he had been there. "Just that I can learn a lot from you," he answered, smiling. My heart was throbbing in my chest. Oh, I feared he would hear it. "So, where are we going? You know I know a lot about guns. Is it true you used to be in the military? Did you kill a lot of people?" I didn't answer for a while. "Yeah, lots. Why do you think your dad trusts me so much? I have what it takes to get the job done," I arrogantly said, and pushed my way through him. "Yeah, Dad sure knows how to pick 'em." He rolled his eyes and turned away. I couldn't help but notice how his jeans hugged his ass. Hey, I'm not exactly happy with this either, kid. I told him, I don't do. I know, he said. He sighed and turned back to look at me. Know what I want to ask, though? Why do you do this kind of work? I've wanted to ask my dad for years, but I just haven't. Why would anybody choose this, risking your life every day? For what? He was asking the wrong person. I had no morals or ethics. Shit, I lived life day by day. I mean, think about it. How many people's kids need bodyguards? This line of work is dangerous, not only for my dad, but for me. But he's in it anyway. Why? I stared at him, taken aback. Definitely not where I expected the conversation to go. I thought of my mom, what she would think. Killing people in Iraq was one thing, but what I did now. You've fallen, baby, she'd probably say. You've fallen far. Don't you think it's time you climb yourself back out again? But I couldn't. This was my life now, and I loved it. Did she expect me to work in a coffee shop? Waiting tables in some rich, classy restaurant? Forget it, Javier said. I shouldn't have brought it up. I guess my expression could offer him nothing. What would I know about that, right? I was just some soldier. Some guy his father had appointed to protect him. What did I care? No, I answered, finally letting my voice soften. It's okay. I guess everybody responds to this life differently, huh? Some of us revel in it. Others feel like they're living a life they didn't choose, Javier completed. Like they're out at sea, splashing about without a life jacket, and they could drown at any moment? Is that how he felt? Shit. Maybe we weren't too different in the sense that we both didn't feel we belonged. This was my identity, and he was still trying to find himself. I felt myself staring at him, taking in his youth and feeling desire grow inside. Why was he telling me all of this? We had made a connection, and now I didn't want to push it away. Hey, I found myself saying, I have nothing to do for the rest of the day. Your dad said we should get to know each other. You want to go and sit somewhere and talk? Talk? Really, Liam? Talk? He frowned at me, making me feel like a moron. What the fuck was I doing? Did I just ask the boss's son on a date? Was he even into guys? No, this was work. A bodyguard has to know his client, gain trust. I was doing my job with the same efficiency that I did any other I was given. Yeah, that was it. Hey, your father said I have to train you. Let's get to it. Talking? Javier narrowed his eyes at me. That's part of it. Getting to know you. It only took a second for him to smile. Okay, he answered. I've got nothing better to do than sit and chat with my babysitter anyway. He smirked. You're driving. He walked ahead of me towards the door. I rolled my eyes at myself. Really, Liam?